I was going to the first few sessions were kind of about building rapport again, because we were starting over in a new space and kind of everything that was going on, I just wanted to build comfort again. So I think starting that process over again and just keeping it light for the first couple of sessions have been really helpful in my work with the kids. So some things that I did for those first few sessions, a lot of the kids have been really excited to have me in their space and to be able to show me the things that they're proud of in their home, like their bedroom, artwork, an heirloom, pictures, stuff like that. And so that's been really fun to ask them if they're comfortable to take me around their room and show me the things that they are proud of and give me a little tour. And that's been a fun first kind of activity to do with kids. And also opens up for more discussion later on if something kind of sparks something in them or something resonates. Another thing has been doing a scavenger hunt of sorts. So I have a list of things that I ask the client to find. So examples of these things are something that brings you joy, something that brings excitement, something that brings up a good memory, something that brings up a not so good memory, something that reminds you of blank, whatever is relevant in your work with that kiddo. So I found it also is something that can open up the door for deeper conversation as well as just building comfort. So the whole process of teleplay therapy by nature is just kind of more directive. So that's kind of challenging if you're used to more non-directive play therapy and more client-led. It's just kind of the nature of it is you kind of have to be more directive, I feel, but still allowing some power and control in the choices, like giving choices for what we can do today, still trying to let them lead as much as possible and have some power and control in that. One of the things that I have found most helpful in this process is Legos. So if you have Legos or can get some Legos, and most kids have Legos, just playing Legos together while you guys are talking is, like I said, something that kind of takes the focus off the screen and just allows more comfort and casual conversation, which can slowly turn into deeper conversation, which it has for me and a few of the kids that I work with. So that's been really fun, and to see what they build and like have little challenges with them, and that's been really great. Something else kind of in the same vein is drawing with them. So I've heard of people doing like drawing a portrait of each other, since you can see each other so closely, and kind of seeing where that goes. Any of the drawing prompts that you use already in therapy with kids can work over teletherapy and are pretty helpful. Basically, if you can find things to do where you're joining them and it doesn't feel like your eyes are boring into them while they're doing the activity, is great, because it's not a lot of talking. So if they're doing something and you're just kind of watching them, that's not going to be comfortable for anybody. So just building that like rapport and joining them is helpful. So a few more things that I've found in my research and looking at what others have done. So Therapist Aid, the website Therapist Aid, has some interactive tools that you can screen share with your client and do together. And they have some for kids. So they have some cool feelings identification stuff, and they have the feelings identification stuff asks deeper questions, and you can kind of pick the ones that are relevant to what you're working on. So that's been a good tool. Having your client show you a video or a song that resonates with them. So asking them what it is and making sure it's an appropriate video or song before you pull it up, and then watching it together and asking what's special about it, what they identify with in that song, what the lyrics mean to them, is all kind of a good segue into some deeper stuff. Moving together has been a really good one. So kids aren't getting as much movement, obviously, right now, I think. So any way that you can integrate that into your session with them is really helpful. So there's lots of YouTube videos on kids yoga. I think the most popular one is Cosmic Kids Yoga. It's really fun. They have some great ones for calming and helping yourself feel when you feel nervous, and all kinds of stuff that you can screen share and do with your kids. And that's been really fun to incorporate that kind of movement into session. Also, something that I found out that there are card games, board games, word games that you can create private rooms and invite your client to if they're able to, probably older kids. I have not done it yet, but I have heard of other clinicians doing it and having some good luck with that. So that's another option for finding a fun way to engage with and connect with maybe older kids. So there are plenty of things that you can do to help engagement when you have a kid and you're attempting play therapy over teletherapy. But I think the biggest thing I've learned and the most valuable thing I've learned is that just having the compass of the relationship between the kid that you're working with and you, obviously that's the most effective thing. So making sure that's at the forefront of what you're wanting to achieve, and you'll find the right stuff that connects with them and increases their engagement. So I hope that's helpful. That's all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jenna. That was great. I would like to now introduce Heather, who's going to talk about working with teens.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Jordan. I think I know pretty much everybody, licensed marriage family therapist. I work with a lot of teens and adults. I'm by far not the local expert in teens, so if you have other ideas, feel free to shoot them out too. I am also a mom of 3 teens, so I kind of have like really good insight into it. And I've got 3 layers of teens. So I've got a early college, a middle high school, and an end of junior high teen. So I'm like got the gamut, and I'm working with teens. So instead of deciding that I was going to give you everything that I knew, I just went straight to the source. I talked to my clients and asked them what do they think that therapists need to know, and then I talked to my kids. And the overwhelming theme was they are stressed out like you would not believe. And the number one stress for them, there's actually 2. The number one is school. They have no idea what's going on with school right now. There's so much information out there and so much misinformation that kids are getting confused. So the biggest tip that I would have is know your stuff with the school districts that the teens that you're working with attend. So any of the Reading school districts, it's Shasta Union High School District. You go on there, it'll give you all the updated information. Anderson is its own school district, so they have other policies. Shasta Lake is Gateway School District. So just be up to date with their policies, kind of what's going on, and just normalizing it for them. This is a really, really confusing time for kids. They have been thrown into this distance learning, and one of the things that I'm working with teens is telling them that you're not doing distance learning. You are doing surviving a pandemic, finishing school from home. So let's throw away the title of distance learning, because this isn't actually what we're doing. It's not homeschooling, it's not distance learning, it's not extended from school learning. So just kind of normalizing that, hey, this is a crazy process and we don't know what it's like either. Really encouraging them to contact their teachers as much as possible. I also happen to be married to a high school teacher, so I've got a little insight that way. Most of the high school teachers, they don't know what the heck they're doing either. They're figuring it out. They want to do everything that they can to help these teens pass their classes. So helping the teens connect with their teachers will really help decrease that stress. College students. So that's their teens, right? Especially our Shasta College students, most of them, knowing that Shasta College, as far as right now, is not going back to in-person classes next fall. That's something that all of these students are having to process. The ones that are currently students at Shasta College and the ones that are wanting to go in. As far as the research that I'm seeing, it's pretty much all California state universities are only online next fall. So that's a huge grief process that a lot of these kids are having to work through. Let's see. The other really big issue for teens right now is they are geared to be social machines, right? Even the shy ones, like they have their group of kids that they connect with, and not seeing each other at school is really throwing these teens for a loop. So really encouraging them, how can you make those connections outside of school? Can you guys maybe, do a Facebook chat or video games? I know a lot of people in the profession don't like video games. Right now, video games are amazing for teenagers because they are getting a connection with their friends that they are not able to get anywhere else. So encourage video games and like team games. Let's see. So the other advice that I was given is, please, therapists, know your platforms. That's the biggest not the biggest stressor, but a big stressor for teens is know your platform, know how it works, know what you're going to do if the video doesn't work. I am doing about half and half video on my program. I do FaceTime, and then I do some just phone calls. You got to do what works for the teen. And you being flexible is really, really important. I had one session where I did all three plus texting within an hour of session. So just kind of doing what works for the teen. Encouraging them to get out of their bedroom for the session is sometimes a really good thing. Get out, go sit in your car, go sit in the backyard, do something different. Let's see. I was told very specifically by a couple, as a therapist, if you're gonna look at your phone for information, or you're gonna do anything on any sort of other electronic, just tell them. They don't care if you are looking at another device to get information. Tell them, and that's going to be totally fine with them. They get really, really distant if it feels like the therapist is not engaged. So, but they have absolutely no problem if you need to text, if you've got little kids and you need your husband to come get the kids from banging on the door, tell them, I'm texting my husband, they're going to get the kid. Teens are forgiving, like the most forgiving that you'll ever work with. Let's see. Recognizing that they're all going through the normal teen stuff. Most of them are still going through puberty, so that's still going on. Most of them are still dealing with relationships, both friendships and romantic. So how do you navigate having a new girlfriend but not being able to see them? How do you express that to your parents that I really want to connect with this person, but I want to want to practice social distancing, all of that kind of stuff. Bullying, it's still going on. So touch base with your teens. Are you getting bullied? Do you know anybody that's getting bullied? What are your thoughts? Let's see. And then being flexible with your time. Some teens, you're not going to get a whole hour session out of them. You're not going to get 45 minutes. You might get 30, and just being okay with that. Like, you're just going to eat the time, and that's okay. So that's pretty much all I have. Check in with your teens. If you're working with teens, just ask them, is this working for you? What do you want to do differently? They'll be honest with you. The other thing that they assured me is that they really don't care about the change in format. If that relationship has already been developed, sometimes it's actually a lot easier for them to do this format, because they don't feel as, not threatened, but it's as intimidated than a face-to-face session, and they can really start getting deep into stuff. So that is all I had.
Thank you, Heather. I appreciate that you interviewed your kids, because I know they're going to keep it real. So thank you. I would like to introduce Delene next.
Hi there, Delene Forster. Know most of the faces in the room. Good to see you guys. And so I was asked to speak about practicing trauma treatment and EMDR or /EMDR via virtual means. And so you'll see me look down occasionally to check my notes. And I think that's a really good point that Heather brought up about looking down. If you're doing anything besides, if you call it out, whether regardless of the age of the individual, it's much easier to deal with than if you look like you're just being distracted, because it brings up those studies where we've seen the infants and the mother is not, stops engaging and looking, and it brings up anxiety for our clients. And so clients who have more anxiety, that's true for teens, obviously. And just calling out what you're doing so that they don't assume that you're disconnected from them. And especially if you're working with traumatized clients, you're working usually with varying states of dissociation. So individuals who've experienced traumatic experiences in their life, their number one thing that they're dealing with is affect regulation and emotional regulation. And so when we look away from someone, we stop engaging, especially if they're talking about something really important and powerful to them. It increases anxiety and causes a feeling of I can't get you back, and can start the dysregulation pretty quickly. So like I think Jenna said earlier, that there are important things to remember. These are your people. These are the people that you've seen before. These are clients that we are usually clients that we're connected with in the past. I've had a couple of new clients that have come in since we've started this process. They were on the schedule for quite a while. They've been waiting in line. And so we started sessions in a telehealth way. And it's taking a little bit longer to develop the relationship, which is fine. I just get to take a nice, much longer history. Those of you who've taken the EMDR trainings with me, I like a good long trauma timeline. And so it allows me to get a really good history with those clients. And most of my practice and most of your practice is with clients that you've already seen before. So you have a therapeutic rapport with them. So trusting that and knowing that that is there already for you, and that you know how to engage those people. And their triggers for some dissociation that's going to happen. The things that they are going to be talking about that is going to cause that kind of moment of pause. And when they have that moment of pause, your first thought is, did the screen freeze, right? And it may have, but you want to be leaning forward and saying something like, it looks like you froze there. Are you okay? checking in, touching in, using our voice, using our language to really connect with our clients. This is one thing about this kind of environment too, is if we sit too still for too long, it's almost as distressing as if we were looking down, because if we are still, it feels like we're not even engaged. And so keeping that in mind, that you want to be engaging with your client during your session. So remembering these are your people, you know their tendencies towards dissociation, you know their tendencies towards what this experience of being home is bringing up for them in their trauma world. You know their trauma timeline. You know that this may be very much like being held captive in a situation where somebody was kidnapped, or in a domestic violence relationship that they couldn't get out for a long time, or in a situation where they were held against their will. So this can be bringing up those kinds of memories. So really knowing your history of your client is going to come in really handy, because you can check in with that. And the more that you check in with that, they're not even realizing sometimes how close this is to other experiences that have been traumatizing. So bringing it up and talking about how this is, this makes me wonder how you're doing with this experience, given the time that you were, as a child, when you were left, you were, what do I want to say, when you went to go stay with that uncle that you didn't really want to go see, So asking specifics about your client based on the history. If nothing else, this is a great time to say, how is this reminding you of your past experiences? Very few of our clients who've been traumatized walk in with one trauma. So they often have a lot in their trauma bag. And so we can check in with them and ask how this is affecting them, and what this might be bringing up in terms of their traumatic history and other things that have happened to them throughout their life. A lot of what we're doing is affect regulation, right? So our traumatized people, excuse me, who are spending a lot of time in the environment. So let me just talk about a couple of my clients who they're spending in time in an environment that is triggering in terms of being held against their will. They are also spending the time with people in their life, in their relationships, that don't appreciate the level of trauma that they've experienced in the background, and may believe that they're overreacting. So this can be really doubly traumatizing and difficult for our clients. So asking them how they're doing with where they're at in terms of being at home, but also who they're interacting with. And then you want to be practicing. I think this is really, so in a weird way, this is a really great opportunity. I know that, let me see, Jenna was talking about with kids, like we get to see their home environment, right? But we also get to teach our clients how to affect regulate better in the environment where they're actually suffering or struggling with. And a lot of times when they come to our office, they have a drive to the office, or they're at work first. So they have some time before they walk in to see you. So they're kind of getting in that therapeutic headset. Then they come in and see you. You teach them some skills, or remind them of some skills, maybe do some hypnosis, EMDR, relaxation, CBT, whatever it is that we do with them, DBT, whatever skills we're working with them. And then we send them out. They get to walk out into the waiting room. They might take a few minutes before they get into their car, and then they've got to drive home. So there's a lot of things that happen between your office and them re-engaging with the people that are in their everyday lives. This way, they're 2 to 4 steps away from the door that leads to the room with the other people that we want them practicing these skills with. So having them, practice them with you, they're going to be more grounded and more practiced when they walk across the room and go out that door or into the house. I know many of us have seen most of our clients in their cars lately, because it's just been a great, easy place for them to get a lot of privacy. So, but from the car to the house is not very far for re-engaging with people who can be very triggering. And so practicing the skills, it's a real in vivo opportunity to practice those grounding skills, deep breathing skills. One of the things that it's a good time to check in, and I'm sorry, I can't remember whether it was Heather or Jenna who talked about, I think it was Jenna who said, like, having the kiddos bring you things that, that bring them joy and help them to express their emotions to you. Well, likewise with our traumatized clients, we might have them think about things in their environment that they can bring near where you're going to be meeting with them so that they can help ground. So I'll share with you, like, I always have my stress relief hand lotion because this is awesome stuff. It smells like eucalyptus, so no, and I get no kickback for advertising it. But having the client, like, think about a lotion or a soap or a tea bag smell or something that feels very grounding, soothing, and calming, and having that near them so you can, like, have the practice of let's bring that hand lotion to your nose and let's smell it, and let's practice taking a deep breath into that, practice the affect regulation that goes along with the smell of that. Sometimes it's a matter of getting something else in the room, a texture that they can touch. So when we think about my timer stop. Okay, I'm almost out of time and I talk too much. So the 5 things you can see, the 4 things you can hear, the 3 things you can feel, the 2 things you can smell, the 1 thing you can taste in the environment is a great exercise for grounding our clients and keeping them present. If we keep them in that affect tolerance place, we're more likely to be able to work with them. If they get over that affect regulation, out of that window of tolerance, they're not going to be able to process. So keeping them in that window of tolerance. Animals and pets are great grounding experiences. So people who have cats or dogs on their laps, those have been really wonderful. Also, grab a pillow because I have the spare bed right next to me. So if you do have a client who does start kind of freezing up and doing a little bit of dissociation, grabbing that pillow and saying, I want you to grab your pillow or stuffed animal and I want you to like toss it up in the air 3 or 4 times, right? So just like if they were in your office and you started tossing a ball back and forth to kind of get them grounded and present, you can do the same thing by having them do something with something in their environment. So, so those are some ideas. If you're an EMDR therapist, we've been doing lots of very successful EMDR in this environment. EMDRIA has a guidelines for virtual EMDR therapy on their website to kind of help clinicians do that. And there are lots of online tools that you can use if you prefer the eye movements or the tones, but you can also just guide somebody in just some comforting bilaterals in this way. So there's lots of ways to do that. So I am over and I will shut her down. And it's so good to see all your faces. Hey, Michael, so good to see you. I haven't seen you at a camp meeting in a long time. Anyway, okay, on to the next. We'll chat later.
Thank you, Jolene. Great information. I would like to introduce Katie next.
Off mute. Hi, it's great to see everybody. So couples therapy in and of itself is kind of a different enigma than individual therapy in our own room. And I scoured some of my resources, people that I've studied, Terry Reel, the Baders who have the Couples Therapy Institute, and Gottman for some information to see if I was kind of thinking about how I'm working with couples in the same way as some of the experts in the field. And it seems like I'm in pretty much the right place. All of them are kind of recommending that, directiveness is always a strong skill for a couples therapist. Being able to take control of a session that gets out of hand is a priority no matter what, but it can be really something that is different when you're in an online setting. You don't have the whole access to, body language. You can't get in contact with the face as quickly and easily as you might to ground somebody in an in-person session. So that was kind of the overall thing that I read in all of the kind of research I did in thinking about this. There's 5 major areas of concern that we ought to think about in terms of legal and ethical with working with couples online. The kind of mentioned it with Delene and the other 2 that spoke, that privacy issues are of great importance, and it's something that when you're moving a client online or starting a new couple online, that you really need to create your boundaries and your understanding of how you're going to behave in certain circumstances. In particular, I'm sure all of you have met everybody's dogs, you've met their kids, all that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of the stuff that we talk about in couples therapy is really not good for little people's ears. And so I've kind of made it a custom to create some signals if the parents feel that a child is coming in or hearing that we do a stop to me, and then I stop whatever I'm saying just to protect little ears or that type of thing. But ultimately, in our informed consent, we need to put the responsibility on the client for protecting their own privacy, with us being attuned to issues that we're feeling or sensing. A case in point is when you have a sense that there might be some, and this has happened to me where I'm doing a rather difficult family, where I had a sense that somebody was in the room that should not have been in the room, listening and possibly recording a session. So I used my gut and I stopped the conversation. I protected the children in the case, and we ended the session immediately. And it turned out I was right. So you also have to trust your gut to be able to know whether or not you should be talking about certain subjects when doing family therapy. So you want to get some signals, some commitment that others aren't in the room, and that the couple itself is protecting their own confidentiality and privacy. A few things I've recommended: I have a really loud sound machine outside of my door in my home, and then I've recommended that they order them on Amazon if they can get them here, to have a sound machine so that kids aren't hearing, which seems to be the biggest issue. Safety issues in couples therapy are always paramount, especially if you're working with any couple that has some evidence of interpersonal violence, which for the most part is not really conducive to couples work anyways. But we have to remember, and one statement that Gottman had put in an article about how couples are dealing with the COVID is, under stress, we regress. And so I'm seeing a lot of regression in my couples. I think it's something that you need to expect to happen, and lots of recommendations of really talking about that regression, normalizing it, setting safety goals and self-care goals. Ellen Bader said that she has changed the whole way that she's been doing her checking in at the beginning of a session, that she starts with each member of the couple, asking them what they're doing with self-care, how they're working on their self-soothing, how they're protecting their own personal boundaries, while reiterating that without those personal boundaries, they can't have a team. So you're not a good team member if you're not a good I. And so really helping your couples with self-care and putting those things into place, which is normal in couples therapy to teach couples partner soothing and self-soothing, but that self-soothing has to come first and before partner soothing. So, kind of creating that as a good check-in, like reminding them that they ought to do that. And I'm actually ending my sessions now with, how are you going to handle your self-care? What is one thing you're going to do personally? What is one thing you're going to do for your partner in the next week? What is your goals for making that a real big part of our treatment plan, which it always is with couples anyways. But I think right now, obviously, there's so much ambiguity that couples are experiencing, economic things that are happening, that we really need to be really cognizant to that. Let's see. I wanted to speak a little bit about, and actually I didn't hit my time, so Shauna, raise your hand when I'm getting kind of close, of onboarding a new couple. And I think there's some differences between now and in the past of onboarding families or couples, that there needs to be a stronger amount of assessment and pre-screening, because in couples therapy, when you're in the room, you can feel things relatively quickly. You can do that assessment in the first couple sessions, but you might not catch that in as quickly. So I think a lot of pre-screening on the phone about the readiness of therapy, about some of the reasons that couples therapy is not a good idea when there's existing issues. I think it's probably really helpful right now for couples therapists to work closely with the individual therapist. And if there are pre-existing mental health conditions, that we almost before we take them as client, we really know that there's another therapist involved, that there's doctors involved, that you need to have more involvement, because you don't have as much immediate influence of couples in sessions as you would in person sessions. So on that note, I wanted to quickly go through some suggestions for managing hostility and aggression in couple sessions or family sessions. And that is to have some rules in place of how to get an individual's attention should they be abreacting or their emotional regulation be off and you can't see it. So being able to talk with your couples about how they're experiencing you, like how big am I on your screen, and talking to them. The way I'm doing it is, okay, if the session begins to get out of control and I see that I'm losing you emotionally, I'm going to call your name. And when I call your name, I need you to stop, look directly at the screen, and be with me. Ignore the other partner. And I have been telling clients, expect me to get closer to the screen, just like I would empathetically in an individual session, leaning into them. And so we kind of talk about those things ahead of time with high conflict couples. I'm also making sure that I talk a great deal about timeouts, and I have like a million handouts. One I particularly like from Terry Reel on taking timeouts and allowing that to happen in the sessions as well. So that if the one person needs to leave, that's fine, that they take the breaks, that they do what they need to do to take care of themselves. I'm finding in the home environment a couple different things. Avoidant couples are more avoidant. Aggressive couples are more aggressive. They feel more at home. Let's see. Most importantly for us, I think that we've probably heard it and read it enough that we need to make sure that we're doing self-care. I'm trying to actually do a few less clients than I normally would because of the intensity. I actually have found that all my couples stayed with me. It was some of the individual clients that were kind of like, I can wait until we get done with this. And so that was good. I know I'm a little bit all over the place here. I wanted to say that we are beginning to already see research that the divorce rate is going up. It went up. I didn't get the percentages from Ellen Bader when I did her training, but has gone up both in New York City and in China, Wuhan, I can't say the name. And so, that kind of shows us, we don't know directly if that is if it is truly the virus that's causing that. We know that there was an increase in divorce after the Trade Center and other major catastrophic events. And so I think the call to couples therapists to be here and to really be trauma focused is really important for us right now. Let's see. I do have a little handout about like going through with your couple ahead of time about how they should sit, that send out some instructions to the couple that I want to see them both in the same place. I want to see both of them in the screen, even if that means getting their screen farther away so that I can experience more of their body than just if I can get them from the waist up versus just here, because so much in couples therapy is about body language. And that they preferably use a laptop computer, not necessarily a phone. I mean, it's kind of intense when you got two people in a couple and they're like looking in at the phone at you. I've also had a lot of fun in couples therapy since doing this. And my favorite thing has been watching how a couple deals with technology and how they're banging on the screen and honey, get out of the way. And that's just been really fun. And then I had another couple that had a full-on argument going on and they didn't know that I had come online and they were like at it. And they're generally my avoidant couple. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, so being in people's homes, I've actually enjoyed. I could see myself doing more couples therapy online. And then I'll close with one thing that a couple couples have told me, and it's consistent with Gottman's research. One of Gottman's intervention is to have the couples therapist videotape the couple in session and then make them watch it back. I have had several couples when I've asked them, what does it feel like to watch yourself when you are doing this behavior with your partner? And I've had a lot of feedback that it's actually very eye-opening to see yourself like leaning in with anger, that type of thing. So I've been enjoying it. I'm super fatigued and tired. I think all of us are, and that we all need to be taking care of ourselves. So I think that's my time.
Thank you, Katie. I am next. So I'm going to be speaking on how to establish a rapport with clients that you're starting to see via the telehealth platform. I did a little bit of research, and I'm also going to talk primarily from my own experience. I read across a quote today from Bill Gates, and he said the internet is becoming the town square for the global village of tomorrow. And I believe that we don't know what direction we're going to be going, our field is going to be going. I think we're just staying in today and doing the best that we can. And this platform allows all of us to learn from each other's experience. And so for those of you who I've spoken with, you already know this, but my experience when we went to telehealth, my last day in the office was March 18th. And I lost 14 clients the following week. When you walk in my office, it's really important to me that I integrate the 5 senses so people know what they're going to see, what they're going to hear with the sound machine or the water feature. They know they're going to smell a candle. They know what the lighting is going to be like, and they know the texture of the couch they're going to sit on. And like all of us know, we have no idea what environment they're in, if their home or space that they're in is safe or not. And so coming in my office, especially for older folks, is an outing. It's an appointment. And for those of all ages, it's a safe place. So, so my experience with people not having no interest in wanting to switch to telehealth, I took a hit the first month. As a result, I've had quite a few new folks. So I've had 8 new clients to date that have started on this platform. I have 2 more starting this weekend. So my experience has been from age 14 to 74. With the folks that are 74, which is a couple, I spent 5 minutes the day before helping them navigate turning on the Zoom, because it was very much anxiety provoking to even understand how that could happen. I really appreciated Heather. I really appreciated you sharing, because I start with a teenager tomorrow. And Jenna, that information was really helpful. So what I have found is helpful is I send all the intake paperwork via email and ask folks to send it back via scan. I try to encourage folks just to recognize their courage for taking a risk to start therapy, which is so personal and revealing on this platform where they don't have a sense of what it feels like to energetically be in my space, to know if they can trust me, to see the rest of my body language. And so I try to do a lot of validating in the email first. When I send the text, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 2 p.m. And then when we start the session, I have encouraged people to either get in the car and drive to a place that's beautiful and safe and peaceful so that they can feel the energy of nature. So I have people that are parking down by the river, that are in the back 40 of their property or wherever it is that allows them to feel peaceful. I've had folks put candles on their desk, which I have right now. And like was mentioned, you know, having a blanket, having something that they can hold that's familiar, some kind of amulet, having the pet nearby, just to ground themselves to begin a new process. So one of the things that I've read about, and I'm going to post 4 different sites that were really helpful I'll type it in after I'm finished, is just really doing assuring that folks are in a safe place. I don't know them yet. I don't know their environment or their family, if somebody's going to follow them out to the car. So I talk about, are you safe? I get a rough idea of their physical location. Are you at home? What street are you parked on? Just for assurance. It hasn't been an issue to date, but that's what was suggested. And then I like to have people just take a breath and talk to me about what was your experience committing to starting therapy in an online platform? You know, have you had anxiety? And really just validating the courage that it takes, and a lot of validating the courage that it takes to not just show up for counseling in general, but to show up on this platform. So just a lot of breathing. I try to outline the session of here's what to expect. We're just going to get to know each other today. And whatever you are comfortable talking about that's important to share, please do so. I have much less structure and a lot more flexibility with the phone and the Zoom and the FaceTime appointments. I'm finding that some people, if they're comfortable, they will just start speaking on a tangent, unedited, and thank God we have the tools to follow folks. But I love that, because sometimes it's just our voice and our assurance that allows them to feel safe, and they'll just start purging. So, so I like to just talk about, what do you need to talk about today? I haven't been comfortable doing trauma treatment with folks just because if it's a phone session particularly, I can't see where they're at. I can't read their body language. So I'm really just kind of allowing clients to guide the session and tell me what's important for them to talk about. I like to end the session with asking them what they're going to walk away with, which is really any session. But what are you learning about yourself, not just from having a phone call or having a video session? What are you learning about yourself in terms of your trust level, in terms of doing therapy in a non-traditional way? I always in person or on the phone, ask what people are grateful for and what are they going to do for their self-care in the next week. I am talking to newer clients about, what does your privacy look like in the setting that you're going to be returning to after this call? Do you have anything going on in your week ahead or the next 2 weeks where you have concern? I ask folks about their support system because I haven't gotten their story yet or know who they rely on. So a lot of just getting a sense of their security and their daily structure and routine and their support system. And document everything that I can, because the truth is we can't read what's going on in this platform. We don't know who's sitting in the next room. Thank goodness I haven't had any sessions to date where there was cause for concern, but I have talked to another therapist who had that experience. So what I'd like to do is I will post a couple of sites that are really helpful. Theranest is an online platform, but they also have a lot of great material. They have a tab on the beginner's guide to offering telehealth if you want more information. And then I also found some really good reading on goodtherapy.org, mentalhealthmatch.com, and the coach.com. So I will post those, and I am going to hand it over to Shauna, who is also speak a little bit after her talk on behalf of another person who couldn't be with us today.
Okay.
Take it away, Shauna.
I got it. So I'm just going to talk legal and ethical a little bit. I've just basically compiled as much as I can find about the most recent laws that are happening for California. Really, CAMFT is doing an excellent job of keeping their website updated. If you are following CAMFT and BBS, even just on social media, Facebook or Instagram, they're doing a really good job of putting out new information. BBS was on it when they got the waiver for supervising registered associates. They knew, like they were telling everybody within the hour. So if you're checking the CAMFT website, they at the very front page, I can even screen share it I think I have it pulled up right here. They are showing as much information as we need. So when you go to the very front page, you can click right away on updates right here. And they've got everything. So I'm just going to outline a little bit of what I think is probably most important for people. Let's see. So basically, BBS got the waiver for supervising registered associates. I know that was a big question early on, was how we were going to manage all of that. It is right now going to expire in 60 days, but I'm assuming that they're going to figure that out as they go. Right now it's like little bits of information as we go, and we're trying to gather as much as we know, right? So in March, a lot of it was just, as a therapist, all this distress about what's insurance going to do, and what are the laws going to do, and are they going to cover it, and are they going to cover phone sessions? And there was all of that distress, and I think some of that is getting lessened now if you're staying on board with what's happening. So couple things. The governor's executive order did suspend the legal requirement for consent for telehealth. However, best practice is to try to get it if you can, so you can verbally get it and document that you've gotten it verbally. I still like to have a written consent form in my file as soon as I can get it. And we have a couple examples of those, and CAMFT has an example on their website right in that same page that I showed. They have an example of a telehealth consent. It's not legally required right now, but it is best practice to get one. It's also not legally required to get any training for telehealth. But again, best practice is to make sure that you are getting as much training as you feel you need. I just did a refresher hour from Simple Practice Learning. And those are easy because they have just one CEU, just an hour. So on my lunch break, I've been trying to knock a couple out. And that one was actually nice because it's so new. There were a couple things in there that I was like, oh, I didn't know that. They made a case for FaceTime always having been HIPAA compliant because of some weird way that it works like a phone call, not like a video. So that was interesting to me. So CAMFT has free trainings, and Simple Practice Learning has a free hour telehealth training if people are interested in having some more training about it. Let's see. HIPAA has eased restrictions. You can use Skype, you can use FaceTime, you could use Facebook Messenger right now if you wanted to, because HIPAA has opened it way up. Again, best practice is probably to still do the safest thing that you have available, the most confidential thing that you have available in your use. One thing I've noticed though is I'm using Simple Practice, and it has been hit and miss. Some days are perfect and nobody has a problem, and then occasionally we're like glitching, and if the glitching is getting stressful, if it's happening more than a few times, I'm just telling people I'm going to FaceTime call them, and that FaceTime never fails. So knowing that HIPAA has, loosened their restrictions and that you are covered with FaceTime right now, that has helped me know that I can use a backup system if and when I need one. The other thing to remember is that insurance is covering phone calls now. It's so ingrained in me that insurance does not cover phone calls that I sometimes forget that that's an option for me. So like Heather, I know, is doing a really great job doing phone calls with people, and some of her people are really wanting phone calls instead of video for whatever reason. They don't want to look at themselves or they don't have access. And so it's one thing to remember that for now, insurance is covering phone calls just like they're going to cover anything else. So with insurance, the Department of Managed Healthcare, the Department of Insurance, they've all given orders right now for California that health plans are reimbursing at the same rate as in-person sessions. They're covering video, any video platform that therapists have available to them, and telephone services at the same rate. So luckily, California is doing a pretty good job of making sure that our people with insurance are going to get their services covered. The biggest issue for me has been when they're going to cover copays and when they're not. That seems to be a little all over the place. It's plan specific. Is it a self-funded plan? Is it a federal plan? It's like different every time. So I have just really included that in my consents with people, and I've been really informing people as I go. We don't know what's going to happen. I've been billing very quickly so that I can see hopefully what's happening with people. Although I'm mostly Anthem, and Anthem is going so slow with billing. So as much as I can bill quickly, I still don't get answers for everybody right away. So I'm trying to make sure my clients know all the time, like, looks like they're covering your copays this month, but we don't know what's going to happen next month because that copay piece has been a little sticky. But the good news is that right now, insurances are covering at the same rate as in-person sessions. And any available and appropriate modes of telehealth is part of that order that's been given. And then, with billing, really, it should not be very difficult to bill differently than anything else. Most of us probably know this by now because we've been doing it for a while. You use the same CPT codes. Really, you just need to be using that 95 or GT modifier, and your place of service is O2. So I do all my own billing, but it's been an easy change to just bill for telehealth sessions. I know the other question that I think a lot of therapists are going to start to have is like, when do we go back to face-to-face? How long are we going to do video? What is that going to look like? I know that's really case-specific and therapist-specific. CAMFT has it on their website. Their position is that we are essential employees and that legally we can provide services face-to-face this whole time. But it also feels very much like they are encouraging people to be as safe as possible and to do, distance when possible, at least early on while the governor's orders are stay at home. So, they have some recommendations in there. Basically, talk to your liability coverage and make sure they know you're going to be back in person, see if they have any feedback on that. One more thing about CPH. Where did I write that down? CAMFT got confirmation that CPH is covering all of their therapists just the same as they would be for in-person sessions. And they just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that CPH is obviously covering all of us, even doing telehealth sessions. So in terms of going back to the office, they just really want you to cover your bases, maybe have a COVID-19 consent form in place. cover your policies. What are your county's policies? What are, like CDC policies for office one-on-one, and maybe really laying out what you're going to be doing in terms of keeping people safe. Waiting room, not waiting room, bathroom, not bathroom, like being pretty specific about that. The thing that I'm doing personally is I'm just having conversations with every single person about how long I anticipate being video or what I do or don't know. And then, once I do decide to maybe go back to in-person somewhat, really having conversations with each person about what they feel most comfortable with, obviously encouraging people to stay video if they want to do that. They can do that as long as we can do that, So I know that's kind of one of the bigger questions, and it looks like CAMFT is starting to address that on their website as well. Did I miss anything in terms of legal and ethical? I don't know. Oh, I see some questions. Yeah, so we'll get to that.
Can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
FaceTime has been, I think it was January, it was 2018, I believe, was approved by Medicaid. And you don't need a BAA because it falls under the conduit rule. So that's been accepted for a long time.
Yep.
I don't like it because you can't share a screen, but other than that, it is kosher to do. Yep.
Yeah, that's the conduit exception was the thing that I was hearing in that telehealth training I just did. Okay, and then the other thing, but this is funny because Allie was going to be talking about kind of like setting up your environment, but I'm breaking almost all the rules tonight. I've been doing most of my sessions via my office. There's better internet, and I have 3 very loud children. And so I've been doing mostly at my office, but I'm home tonight and I can't find my earphones anywhere. So you're probably hearing my children as I talk about setting up a good environment. But basically just a couple things, making sure you're aware of what's behind you, what clients can see and what they can't see. Do you have personal photos up? Is there anything you wouldn't want a client to see? Do you have good enough lighting that they can really see you and see the expressions that you're making? I really have noticed that wearing my AirPods has helped enormously with cutting out other sound. I'm not doing that tonight, but that does work a lot better for especially being at home if you have children in the home. Obviously, that has been the biggest challenge for me personally, is that just no boundaries between personal life and professional life. I can hear my kids screaming. I can hear the way my husband is disciplining them while I'm trying to stay focused on clients. That piece has probably been one of the most exhausting things. I know, Katie, you were talking about being tired. I was reading an article about why we're all so tired from Zoom. And one of the things is that our brains need the compartments. I need to know that I'm at work when I'm at work, and my brain can go into work mode, and I'm at home when I'm at home. And there's none of that right now. And so we're constantly just a little bit more hypervigilant than normal, paying attention to more than one thing. So some of setting up the environment for me has been changing the hours that I see clients, changing how many I will see in a row, giving my eyes a break. Doing small things for my own self to make sure that I'm not over tiring. Amy Trent gave us a tip first week to look away every 15 minutes and then look back, and it has helped, Amy. It's really helped me. I was getting eye fatigue and some headaches, but I'll tell my clients, hey, I just look away every once in a while. That's just something that helps me, and that's been helpful. I'm trying to think about setting up an environment and what else. If you guys want to chime in on what's been helping in terms of setting up a good environment, please feel free, because I know that that's been an important part too. Julie, do you have anything else on that one?
Some of what I've read is just assuring that the background lighting is when I sit in my car, depending on what time of day it is, people can miss the whole left side of my face because of the sun. So I put my visor up against the window between me, and it adjusts the lighting. The other thing that I've read about is making sure that we maintain confidentiality of our family and limiting or eliminating any personal photos in the background. And that was suggested in some of the reading.
Okay, I do see, let's see. One thing I was thinking about with this talk, Alexa, I see your question about if we can get Katie's timeout handout that she talked about. I actually, a few other things. Julie said she has a few resources she wanted to share. So I'm thinking about ways of how we can compile some of the information that we've talked about and get it to everyone. Probably on our website is what we can do. Yeah.
So one of the things I forgot to say in my talk is if you are doing a session and then you have your phone, you can text links to your clients right then. And that has been a time saver. My clients love it. So you have to use technology, use technology.
Yeah, that's so funny. So I actually have all of my resources on my computer, and I don't often have physical handouts. I don't know why. I almost always say like, oh, I'll email that to you or I'll get that to you. And so it's been great lately. I'm like, oh, I'll get it to you right now. And I can just, almost everything is documented and I can get it to them. So I love that part because I'm actually better at resourcing, I think, right now than I am when I'm in my office. But in terms of this meeting, I think as a board, we will talk about how to compile some information and have it available for people. So Alexa, we'll try to get you that Katie's handout. I have a few of the legal things, but honestly, that CAMFT website is where you get everything from anyway. Julie's posting a few. Oh, Michael, what did you want to address in 60 seconds or less?
Wearing glasses. Most of you aren't wearing glasses, that's fine. But like Dennis, you can't see his eyes when he's facing the screen. And if you notice, you can see mine. And that's disconcerting to some people. What I have done is you're fine, Dennis, it happens. But gotten the film that goes on the glasses that they put on that's anti-glare. That helps. And also I got I don't know what you call it, but one of those screen things you put on so you can't see the screen from the side, the privacy screen, that's what it's called. I put that on my computer and that helps cut down the glare as well. And so people can see your eyes. And that's really important to clients.
Yeah,
I make 60 seconds or less.
That was 60 seconds or less. I know some therapists have started using like blue light filter glasses as well, yellow lens or blue light filter glasses, and then they were having the same problem with the glare. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Alexa has another video. Let's see, cheap ways to look great on video calls for women over 50. That sounds amazing. Lighting and placement of camera. Yeah. Katie, did you have something to say about that? No.
I just want to say about we had a little conversation, I think, as the board, and Amy Schultz, she's like, well, you have to have your camera up here. And so I was wearing mine way down here, and I was really noticing my double chin is my birthright. And I accept my double chin, I just don't like to look at it. So raising my computer actually made me so much happier the next Monday. I was happy. And then another therapist told me about how she just takes a Post-it note and puts it over her picture so she doesn't have to look at herself. So we have to have a sense of humor right now.
Yeah. And I've actually told a few of my clients, so this is funny. So much body issue stuff right now. So much. I think also because of shelter in place and like tons of opportunities for, overeating and like that kind of thing. But also I think I am looking at myself so much more in the day than I normally do. So myself and some of my clients will put Post-its over our picture sometimes when we just can't look anymore. So that's one thing. I'm shooting from the hip here. I did press record on this Zoom meeting at the beginning, and thought if other CAMFT members wanted our tips and tricks, I don't know, everyone is visible though. So if you're not comfortable with maybe us figuring out a way to share this with other people, please let me know. I won't do anything with it if there's anybody who's opposed to sharing the recorded Zoom meeting. I just had a thought that maybe other people could benefit from it. And that is all I have, Julie. Questions?
Does anybody have any questions for any of the 6 of us who spoke, or any other information you'd like to share or add? Please type if you do. Thank you, Alexa. Glad you were here.
Me too.
I can't see everybody, so I don't know if somebody's typing or not. Okay. I'd really like to invite the folks that are coming to the telehealth meetings every month to please email us at rrccamft.org and let us know any suggestions you have. Of course, that was going to happen. Any suggestions you have for future topics that you'd like to hear about.
And I will say, if we're going to continue to do Zoom meetings, we'll do a better job of getting the event link with that very first event invite that you get from CAMFT. So what we ended up doing was we sent out another email with the Zoom event invite. So Michael didn't get it. So if you're not getting it from us, please feel free to email the board, email our website, and we'll do our best to get it out to anybody who still needs any kind of an event link.
This is Delene. If I can just say, I think this is a great opportunity to connect. And I think, you know, regardless of the fact that we're social distancing, we're getting people who are here now who couldn't normally because of the distance. And I just really appreciate that it's easy for people. So thank you guys for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Oh, I wanted to share one other thing. I don't have a blanket near me, but I watched a somatic, how to do somatic therapy online. And the woman talked about how people are not, we're not getting much touch, but you can take a blanket and wrap around yourself and talk to your clients and have them get a blanket and wrap and give themselves a hug, as well as, just especially our clients who are, I've got several clients who are living alone in this time. And so, not getting any more hugs and don't know if they will ever get hugs again. So talking about let's get some touch. Let's talk about ways we can take care of ourselves. So anyway, I just want to share that. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And I also wanted to add that therapists need therapists too. And if you don't have the ability or you're uncomfortable reaching out outside of your comfort zone right now, please send an email to our site, and it's either Heather or I are checking the inboxes, and we would be happy to connect you with somebody or just be a safe place to talk and process something. We're all isolated right now, and we want to be a safe place to help one another too with the chapter.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
A friend of mine that is a therapist told me that she was seeing somebody outside of the area because of telehealth is opening that up. And it's always been an issue for some of us that just know everybody in town, and that sometimes we feel limited, we want to have therapy, we want to be treated by a somatic sensing therapist, for instance, that we can't have that contact here. And so I think teletherapy is going to open us all up to doing work outside of our own areas, as well as us seeking help outside of our areas, you know, finding an expert in the Bay Area, which is like a dream for me, but I'm not driving to the Bay Area every week for therapy. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's coming from LA County 4 years ago. I kept my therapist who's down there, and I've kept her the whole time. But one of my favorite things is when college kiddos go off to college, as long as they're in California now, that then I get to keep them if they're not done. And I love that. I've been doing that for like 2 or 3 years, where I'll have a high schooler who goes off to college. And I think that's one of the best things about telehealth is if people aren't done now, you have a little bit more leeway to keep them.
It's also fun to treat a couple who are in two different places. I had a teacher in Nevada. I am licensed in California and Nevada. And just because I know this, if you want to treat somebody in Missouri, that's okay too, because Missouri, and I have this from the board, from the executive director, has no telehealth laws. As long as you're licensed in the state in which you are, then they don't care. But at any rate, I had someone in Henderson, which is 8 hours from me, and her husband was in London. And I was able to put them both on the same screen. She was the patient. He joined us. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, you're reminding me. That's what I didn't talk about was cross state lines for the legal stuff. CAMFT has the cross state lines info in there too. And essentially you really still can't do it unless you're licensed in the other state, or there's a few states that have much less stringent rules. And CAMFT has a list. I think there's 9 states right now where you can do cross state lines, and they've got the full list. We can include that in our little list of things as we go too.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
So another therapist was telling me that she takes Beacon, and at this point she's actually leaving the state, and they're going to let people continue to see her across state lines. So maybe that's been loosened up for now as well.
Wow.
Many states will allow you to continue to see your patient. I have one going to, where's she going? Arizona for 2 months. And because they have a 90-day thing where you can see the person for 90 days without a license. No, it's not that person. Let me correct it. You can practice in their state for 90 days. So if you have 2 people at different times and you can't go beyond that. But and that's automatically written into their laws. So what I would suggest when a patient leaves or a client leaves the state or going to, email that board where they're going and ask permission. Sometimes you can get permission even if you're not licensed there for that one person. So it's worth asking. And I've had good cooperation from state boards.
Just want to thank everybody for coming, and please check our website, and we will do our best to post the topics and the speakers that will be coming in the next several months. Again, please send us suggestions of topics you'd like to hear about, and either post here or send us an email on the site if you would like a CE, if you're an active member.
I wrote everybody down.
Wonderful. And I just really want to encourage everybody, please practice what you preach with the self-care. And just take good care of you. I hope everybody has a peaceful evening.
Right, bye. Thank you guys.